Welcome to Cabral Concept. I'm Stephen Cabral, board certified naturopathic doctor, and today we're going to tackle one subject on a Total Wellness Tuesday concerning should you eat salt, and if you should eat salt, how much should you really have on a daily basis? So salt has kind of been victimized from everything from high blood pressure to just tension in general, to swelling, to kind of the eyes, looking swollen. All of those specific things are all related around salt. So what I'd like to tell you is that salt has been prized for thousands of years. Literally, the word soldier comes from salt, being paid in salt many thousands of years ago for wars, for their work, for all of those things. And one reason back then is it was used to cure meats. It was used for, keeping food goods at a healthy state or an edible state for a longer period of time. Now we look at it as like, well, we have an abundance of salt. If you go out to eat, everything is just loaded with salt. But let me talk to you about the differences and really see if you should be eating it at all. So there is natural salts in things like celery and different vegetables that you eat and certain foods. But then there's also the fake salt, as I call it, that's added to foods, and that's essentially iodized salt, or the salt that's given to you a lot of times in restaurants or kind of comes in the big bags. All that is called NaCl, so it's just sodium chloride, just two basic molecules. And that's part of the issue, is because your body's never used to seeing salt as just sodium chloride mixed with a little bit of iodine to try to get that into your body, essentially, because the government felt that we were low on iodine, which is essentially true. But let's get back to just sodium and just salt today. When you look at sea salt, there's actually a big difference. Even though sea salt is about 98.5% for the most part sodium chloride, there's also that 1.5% that helps to balance it with all of the minerals and trace minerals that go to help balance essentially sodium chloride. Your body does know the difference. It does like being able to include those trace minerals in there as well, and it functions differently in the body. But let's get back now to a more customized level, because by now, if you've been listening to the podcast and reading my articles and all these things, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Anytime you literally hear a one-size-fits-all approach, you can understand that that person, although well-intentioned, doesn't really know what they're talking about from a deeper level. And the whole topic today came about that I was reading an article. I was at the airport and I was just flipping through a magazine, just trying to kill some time, and it was inside one of the more popular magazines called Men's Health. And I like Men's Health. I think it's a pretty, great overall magazine for guys to read, but it's always a one-size-fits-all approach a lot of the time. And there's the registered dietitian, again, well-educated, all of these things. And someone asked, should I be eating salt, or am I taking in enough salt? And he said, don't worry about taking in extra salt. Everyone in the human, basically, population takes in way too much salt on a daily basis just from the average food. No need to add more. Well, that is not actually true, and here's why. I work with a lot of people in my practice who are suffering from some type of adrenal-based issue where the hypothalamus pituitary gland adrenal axis isn't functioning properly. So this person has been under stress for quite a long time. They have maybe gone through some central nervous system based fatigue. Basically, their body's just worn out. They're maybe at Addison's disease, or not quite at Addison's, or Cushing's. Both of those are characterized by low aldosterone, which is a hormone that regulates sodium. So let's get back to that for a second. Addison's is kind of like wiped out, burnt out adrenals, not adrenal fatigue, actual just wiped out, very little production of cortisol during the day. And you would actually have to do lab testing to find out if you were at that level to see if you're at Addison's. Either way, you could be suffering from a symptomatic version of that, or just not feeling your best. When would you not feel your best? Well, you might be lightheaded, you might be dizzy, you might feel weak, you might not have a lot of energy, you might fatigue quickly. If you drink a lot of fluids, you actually feel worse. All of these things could be signs of low sodium, and this hormone that I was just talking about, aldosterone, is actually regulated as part of this HPA axis, and you don't need to know what that means whatsoever, but it just means that your body's not actually doing a great job at raising or holding on to sodium. It actually doesn't hold on to it as well, holds on to potassium a little bit better, potassium sparing by the kidneys, and what that does, it doesn't allow for very good constriction of the arteries, which means that when you test your blood pressure, you're going to be on the lower end. Okay, so let's bring it full circle. If you have lower blood pressure, like I used to have when I was really sick, so my blood pressure was like 96 over 56, and I would go to the doctors and they would like pat me on the back saying, oh, that's great, you have low blood pressure. Well, it's not great. 96 over 56 is not a good blood pressure reading. It's a low blood pressure reading. It doesn't mean you're gonna die of a stroke like you might at 150, 160, 180 over, 140 for systolic over diastolic for your blood pressure. So that's a good thing, but you're gonna feel lightheaded or feel like you're gonna pass out or feel weak, and that's not a good thing either. So what I'm saying is this, there is no one size fits all, and obviously at that point my body needed more sodium. Now, giving my body sodium, like sea salt, is great. So what I would do is my body needed sodium and I would give it sodium, and guess what? I would have more energy. I would feel a little bit better. My thyroid would actually function a little bit better at that point as well, because my body got more of what it needed as it didn't have enough sodium in the body itself. So I could drink more water now because I wasn't flushing out as many minerals. And basically salt's a big electrolyte. You lose a lot of it when you are sweating those specific types of things. Okay, but even back then I wasn't sweating a lot, but I was still not holding on to a lot of sodium because of these specific issues having to do with my adrenal gland that then affected my thyroid as well. So who shouldn't load up on salt? Well, those people who are more hypertensive or their blood pressure might be a little higher. Now maybe they do need sodium, but that has to be really carefully balanced with potassium. So if you have high blood pressure, certainly use sea salt. If you're going to use salt, definitely not just regular iodized table salt. And what I would say is make sure that you get enough greens, enough potassium, those things to balance it. The bottom line is this: salt is not going to be a cure-all for either one of those. It will help symptomatically, whether taking it out for high blood pressure or adding it in for low blood pressure. It's a nice short-term quick fix, and then of course you have to look at the underlying imbalances. Why are you so burnt out? Why is not your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis functioning properly? Why isn't your thyroid functioning properly? You look at that, but in the meantime, sodium is a lifesaver for a lot of people who are feeling weak, tired, dizzy, lightheaded, all of those specific things. They need it. They need a little pinch of, now I'm not saying add a tablespoon, but a pinch of sea salt at each meal, or even a little bit in their water could help them really go a long way and be able to drink more water, get more hydration in. So keep that in mind. There is no one size fits all approach. And of course, when it comes to natural medicine, we're always looking at the individual, the person in question. And so what I'm saying to you is very simple. You can get a heart rate, blood pressure monitor for maybe like $30, $40. Take your blood pressure, take it in the morning, take it at night. If your blood pressure is below 110, below 100, and the systolic, the lower number, is lower than 80, you could probably deal with a pinch of sea salt, absolutely, to your meals, no problem at all. And if your blood pressure is over 130, over 80, then probably salt is not best for you right now. And again, I know those are general terms and conditions and recommendations right now, but it's a good place to start until you kind of figure out and fine tune your body to a greater degree. Hopefully that answered your question. I can fine tune it more in the future if you would like. Just ask a question and just let me know. Thank you for tuning in to the Cabral Concept. I'm Stephen Cabral, and I'll be back real soon.